This video was brought to you by Squarespace. Do you need some scissors? Sorry, these are mine. Follow-up question, do you need a website? Because if you do, then you absolutely need Squarespace. I wanted to build my website, Arlo recommends, and Squarespace made it just ridiculously easy. I picked a template, messed around with it a little bit, and that was it. And now I can do anything I want with it. I can make content, I can format however I want, I can put in pictures and video and social media posts. I particularly love how I can schedule a ton of posts ahead of time and have them all automatically pushed to my Twitter. It is amazing how hands-off it can be. If I ever need more, I know Squarespace offers loads of powerful extensions. And if I ever want to know how my website is doing, boom, analytics right there. To try out Squarespace for yourself, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. Then when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Arlo to save 10% off your first website or domain. And now for today's recommendation. This recipe for crispy sesame Brussels sprouts with creamy curry dipping sauce. Looking to get some green stuff into your body, but you want a punch of flavor to go with it? This recipe is extremely easy and extremely tasty. And if you don't feel like buying fresh cilantro, just throw in some coriander, maybe some parsley and basil, and you're good. The dish feels super fancy, but mostly uses ingredients I always keep around. Thanks again to Squarespace. Now, on with the video. Lead the way, scissors! Again! Hello, my wonderful friends, and welcome to my Reviewmpressions of Fire Emblem Engage. What's a Reviewmpressions? Well, it's more than just my first impressions, but not quite a review. Is it a bad name? Absolutely. I actually really didn't think that I wanted to play this game, but I don't know. It came out, and I loved Three Houses so much that I didn't want to miss out. I thought I would give it a shot and see if maybe it surprised me. So let's get right into it and talk about gameplay. So the main, back-of-the-box kind of gimmick is this whole Engage concept. You're bringing in characters from the old games, which is a thing that feels like they've just been doing so much already with the Warriors and the whatever. Who cares? I'm not gonna go into all that. So yeah, you get into these heroes, and they kind of combine with your regular characters. They kind of augment them. It's fine. It's a fine little thing. It's kind of like with any RPG or whatever. It's Mega Evolution, it's just, it's like the big special thing that you can do a limited number of times. Your units, they'll temporarily get better, they gain new abilities and have big special attacks and stuff, and it's good, it's good. It's basically what you would expect. It brings in some other tactical advantages, so it's fun, it's solid. It's another fun little thing to consider, when you're planning your strategies and stuff. But for me personally, the biggest change here over Three Houses, because I should have said that, I have only played Three Houses. That is the only Fire Emblem game that I have played, so I am still a total newbie. I don't know that much about the other games. So for me, the biggest change here is bringing back the weapon triangle, where, swords beat axes, axes beat lances, lances beat swords. And I was happy that it wasn't in Three Houses, because I wasn't really sure how I would like it. I don't really know. I didn't like the idea of one type of unit, just being better than another. It seemed like it would be kind of limiting or something. I'm not exactly sure. It turns out, though, I actually really love it. It actually makes the game way better. I could see what people meant when they were complaining about it not really being in Three Houses. I don't know exactly how the mechanic, if it's always been the same or if it worked differently in other games, but at least in this one, if you have a weapon advantage, then if you are able to attack first, then you break their stance, and then that prevents them from being able to counterattack. And I don't know, it's just, it adds such another level to the gameplay, to just how you need to arrange your units and how you need to tackle each situation. And I loved the gameplay in Three Houses, but this is just I don't know. It's just kind of more fun. There's just more to think about. There's more to do. You've got better advantage potential, but then they can use that against you. It just really, really matters now who attacks who. It's almost like you don't just have my couple of units that are just better than the other ones or whatever. It's no, pretty much no matter who it is, what weapon they have can really matter in any given situation. And beyond that, it feels like combat is still mostly the same, but it's as refined as ever. There's a whole lot to keep track of, but you know, the game does its absolute best to help you understand everything, and navigating is really, really easy. There's all sorts of convenient little shortcuts and things. I particularly like how now you like actually move your character around rather than just like directing them with an arrow, you know? Overall, just the whole strategy combat, it's just incredibly good. You know, like it doesn't take long with the game before it's just like, oh yeah, this is good. This is really, really, really good. It's not overly complicated, but it's still deep enough to just be satisfying and just a whole lot of fun. It's really, really great. So a wonderful thing, obviously, about Three Houses was the whole academy. You know, you just had your base of operations between chapters, between fights. You had this big old school, just so much to do, all these items to find and like people to talk to between every mission, and you could take classes and augment your characters, just like so much stuff. And it was really, really amazing. But I have to admit, like by the end, it also felt a little overwhelming. Like I enjoyed doing it once, but I could never bring myself to do another playthrough because it was just so much to do. And if I didn't do a lot of that side stuff, I would just be at a disadvantage. So even though the game, you're supposed to play through it like 3 times, I never did because the Academy it's great, but it's a little bit too much. Fire Emblem Engage solves this problem perfectly. This time you've got the Somniel, which acts as your base, and like it's basically the Academy. You know, it's got most of what the Academy offered. You can talk to people, you can make meals and collect items, and there's all sorts of mini games, and you can even collect animals and kind of like, you know, put them in your little farm, and you can take care of this little puppy cat thing. So it offers so much of the same stuff, but it's been scaled way back in a good way, just in a good way, you know, like you've still got lots of tasks that are still fun enough to do, but there's just kind of like a bit less of it and they're less time consuming, maybe not quite as deep, but still very fun. Not nearly as much dialogue that changes, you know, from chapter to chapter, not as many support conversations and, you know, that kind of stuff. And I gotta say, this is an incredibly refreshing change after Three Houses. Absolutely. It's not always a bad thing to give a player a complex feature and then kind of scale it back in the sequel, you know? Like, you don't want to overwhelm them. So this, to me, it's perfect. And I was worried about that. Going in, I was worried, am I going to have to go through all of that stuff again? But I don't. You can really, like, there's not much here that's absolutely required. It's perfect. So that's 2 for 2 so far. Things are going pretty darn well. And here's another one for you. One of my biggest complaints about Three Houses, it looked awful. It looked really, really bad. You know, like the characters look good and some of the cutscenes looked good, but everything else, just the environment, super bland, just blah. I mean, like, it's just clear that not a lot of budget went into the visuals. You know, they mostly went into like voice acting and the gameplay and stuff. But Engage looks great. You know, there's still plenty of cut corners. You got little like cutscene shortcuts, and a lot of backgrounds and cutscenes are just kind of like paintings and stuff. You know, like, it's still not a big, massive AAA thing. But overall, it's a huge improvement. You know, the fully animated cutscenes are super duper slick. Really great use of color. They just pop like crazy. All the characters look really good, really amazingly rendered. Everything just looks sharp, really nice. And then the biggest thing, the Somniel looks about 1,000, maybe 2,000 times better than the Academy ever did. You know, again, nothing fancy, but like it's good, it's smooth, it gets the job done. There's nothing glaringly bad. It's pleasant. The clouds, we don't have N64 clouds anymore. That's a definite improvement. And the battlefield looks a lot better too. Like, just when you're in combat, just looks better. Not like a ton better, but like it's just doesn't have quite as much of a gross, muddy quality as Three Houses did. And I think one of the reasons this looks so much better is that after each battle, you get to like run around the area, like down from a third-person point of view, you know, not top-down. So you can actually see all the details, and they look really nice. Like, these little runaround sequences, they look nice. They look nice. Again, it's all smooth, colors are good, lots of fun little details. And speaking of this whole thing, that's just a really neat little addition right there. Being able to run around gives you kind of a sense of reality, kind of makes you feel a little more connected to these places rather than being these weird, like, disconnected battlefield things. It's like, no, this is a real place. It's a real little village that we just fought at, you know, and you get to walk around and talk to your teammates and talk to villagers, and this is where you find and adopt animals, and you're getting items. It's just a fun little thing. It's a great little addition, although it almost seems like kind of a waste giving us this ability but not doing, like, more with it. I don't know, just like seeing my character running around these places, it's making me kind of dream of a bigger, more like interconnected, consistent world of a Fire Emblem game, but I know that that's not really in the budget, one big giant world or anything, so I get that. It's a nice new feature though, and another cool addition is the world map. 3 houses. I mean, there was a map when you're selecting a mission, there's kind of a map, but here, there's like an actual map, and you're like running around the map, and like, I don't know, it's simple, but it's nice. It's just another thing that makes you kind of feel like you're actually moving around the world and getting to know these locations rather than just like, I don't know, what's next? What's the next mission? Oh, well, we're here now. It looks slightly different. You know what I'm saying? Like, it does help that level of reality at least a little bit. And that map just looks kind of nice. It's just nice. It's pleasant. So clearly, there is so much to like about this game. In so many ways, it's just the perfect follow-up to 3 Houses, at least from my relatively inexperienced perspective. The gameplay is phenomenal. The mechanics are all good. The Somnial is great. The graphics are a lot better. Just a whole lot to like. Unfortunately, though, I hate to get to this part. I just want to end the video there. Just be like, that's it, done, goodbye, it's great. But no, unfortunately, despite all that, I am having a heck of a hard time wanting to keep playing. And that's because, like, basically everything I haven't mentioned yet, I have big, big problems with. The story and the characters are simply dreadful. And I know that's a bit of a harsh word. I know I'm coming in strong here, starting out with the word dreadful, but that is how I feel. There's just no other way to put it. I'm not incredibly far into the game. There's a whole lot more game to go, and I'm sure things will get at least a little more interesting as they continue to develop and as more characters come into the picture. But I've played a pretty good chunk, and I am not exaggerating when I say that I have not found even one shred of enjoyability as far as the story and the characters go. Not a single tiny little morsel to enjoy. Now, 3 Houses surprised the heck out of me with its story and its characters. Like, it was a really solid high fantasy, with a believable world, a twisty plot, and most importantly, a massive army, an army of interesting characters with distinct personalities and motivations and backstories and all that stuff. And they grew and they grew the more I got to know them. The writing overall was just so good, whether it was the plot or the dialogue, but I'd say mainly the dialogue. It was just good. There were so many genuinely interesting stories to be told about these people, about these characters. But so far, Engage offers basically none of that. The plot is the most basic plot you could possibly imagine. Every single character is the same kind of boring, tropey character you'll find in any old game or anime or whatever. Literally none of them have had anything interesting to say ever. Not once. Maybe like kind of verging into almost interesting territory in some of the support conversations, maybe a little tiny bit. And again, it'll probably get at least somewhat better the further I go. But like, they're just bland. That's the word for it. They may have these like ridiculous clothes in their hair, and they do all these big fancy attacks, and they got all this stuff to say about themselves. But like, that does not stop them from feeling bland, purely flavorless, exceedingly bland. I have to say it's a really nice change of pace that they let the main character speak this time, and that really, really helps, or at least has the potential to help in storytelling. You know, you don't have a silent protagonist anymore, which is awkward. This is a person. They go around, they're actually talking, they're having conversations, they're playing a part in the story. That is great. But man, they don't do anything with it. And the main character, like, I get they're supposed to be, you know, the avatar. They're supposed to be the player. They're not supposed to have too much personality, maybe, in theory. But nah, like, you spend all your time with the main character, and they're just so boring, so bland. They're not fun to be around. They're not fun to listen to. They're not fun to look at. I think their hair is stupid, especially the guys. All of it, all of the story and the characters feel like they were written in a hurry. They feel like they're just by the numbers. They're just there to kind of give a reason for the gameplay to be happening. Just an excuse to let the game be. And this is naturally, monumentally disappointing. And it's making the game genuinely hard to play. I need that motivation. I need to enjoy the characters and have these relationships with all of my units. But there's just nothing here, for me at least. Again, I'm not exaggerating. There's literally nothing here that I have found enjoyable in the slightest. And I'm like 99% sure now that I'm not gonna finish the game. I might. Like, now that I'm doing this, now that I'm recording this and I'm making this video, I want to pick up the game again. I don't know if I will, and that's so disappointing because it's so much fun otherwise. But I can't get by on gameplay alone, you know? I need the motivation. I need the reason to keep moving through the story. Otherwise, it's just a collection of little, you know, strategy fights. And there's so many other games I could be playing. Gosh, even like an okay story, you know, like an okay, maybe a little tropey, a little generic, but an okay story, or like one or two interesting characters. You can get by, you know, whether it's a show or a movie or a game. Sometimes even just one or two good characters can carry the whole thing. But I don't have that. I don't have that one or two. I don't have any semblance of an enjoyable story. It's just generic. I don't know what happened between Three Houses and
Engage.
Why the writing is just so much worse. I don't know what happened, but yeah, it happened, I guess. Then I know this is purely a personal preference thing, so I won't go on about it too much, but boy, we went from a relatively grounded fantasy world to a full-blown anime, didn't we? You know, like from the very first cutscene, you start the game, and then you get this big sparkly cutscene with the theme song and everything, and everybody, like, and the characters, they just have these ridiculous outfits and hair that they don't even look like warriors. They look like pop stars that are like playing warriors in a play. You know, it's just, none of it's believable. It's just over-the-top anime. It's just the tonal shift it's whiplash. It is tonal whiplash, and I find it personally difficult to enjoy even more so because of that. It makes the whole thing feel so silly. It makes me disconnect from the characters even more. They're not even characters. They're just anime tropes. I don't like it. So those are my thoughts on Fire Emblem
Engage.
Suffice it to say, I am extremely disappointed by this game. It's fun. I want to play it. I want to enjoy it. And at first, I'm like, oh, I think I didn't want to play it at first, but now I'm playing it and I'm seeing how great it is. Oh, this is great. But nah, beyond the gameplay and the mechanics, it's just a milquetoast mess. Man. But let me know what you think about the game down in the comments. I haven't even really read reviews. I don't even know what other people think about the game. Maybe I'm alone here. I'm not sure. But let me know what you think down in the comments and all that good stuff. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be off daydreaming about how much I would love to play through the 2 storylines I missed in Three Houses if I only had 100 or 200 hours to spare. Even if I did play it, it doesn't have the cool weapon triangle thing. I want the weapon triangle. I'm gonna have to dig up some old Fire Emblem games I stuff, but then you don't get the quality of life stuff. It's depressing. But oh well.
Engage.